buy Swiss franc. So if you like to place a trade, the price I placed 0.94,183. So I'm looking to buy at 94,183, and it's right now price executed. So I was filled. All of you guys, you still have a chance because the price moved lower. So you can have chance to buy Swiss franc. So if you'd like to follow this trade, please do so, and just follow the trade, and I'll let you know later on what we're going to do with this pair. Okay? Stay safe. I'll speak to you later.
This morning.
Into the jobs report. This is important, folks. DXY, the blended index there of major trading partners, showing new U.S. dollar strength off of euro weakness. And as John mentions, yen, we're getting used to a 110 weaker yen over the last couple of weeks. I'm pleased to announce my book of the summer, Unforgivable, as we end March and go into April. And as no surprise to anyone who knows me, it's Ackerman and James Stavridis' wonderful 2034. It is the most humble book, generating humility, I've read in years and years and years. I'm not going to tell you about it. Just read it. George Friedman knows this book because he knows the story. He is Geopolitical Futures founder and chairman as we look at what he calls a summer of China. George Friedman, what will be our relationship with China come Labor Day of 2021, or for that matter, Labor Day of 2034?
Well, 2034 is hard to predict. Labor Day is pretty much going to be what it is right now. What's right now is the United States, the Chinese are terrified that the United States will close off the choke points that the Chinese face in shipping to the world. They want the United States to back off. They're posturing, but they really don't have the military capability of pushing the Americans off. And if they try and fail, they have an internal crisis of massive proportions. The risk of trying military action is always that you're going to fail, and then it's not good.
Do we know the intelligence? This is what you're expert at, George. You know, Dr. Friedman, you own the high ground on this. We grossly underestimated Soviet Union strength, or rather, we overestimated Soviet Union strength. Do we have knowledge of Chinese intelligence and defense apparatus?
Yeah, and I was just reading a report yesterday about how the Chinese are viewing the situation. The Chinese are saying that the great threat to any action by China is American submarines, and they are saying that their anti-submarine capability is not very good. So if they were, for example, to invade Taiwan, the first invasion is not the important thing. How do you supply forces in Taiwan across 100 miles of open water? The U.S. has a number of options, particularly submarines. The Chinese don't know what we would do, and that uncertainty makes it a very risky operation. So there's a lot of talk in the newspapers and a lot of speculation on what can be done, but you're a Chinese leader. You want to be very, very careful taking on the United States.
Well, George, how seriously are you taking the prospect that they could invade Taiwan?
Well, they can probably force a landing in Taiwan if they wanted to. I don't see how they supply the forces. In any amphibious assault, it's not the initial attack that matters, as we learned in Omaha Beach. It is getting inside and then day after day after day supplying all the things they need. Can they maintain, in the face of the U.S. Navy and Air Force missiles, can they maintain that line of supply? And the Chinese probably can't, and I think the Chinese know it, but the more they can create an atmosphere in which they are intimidating the United States or appear to be intimidating it, the more they get political benefit. But they have been very cautious not to engage the U.S. military.
George, for many people, including some that come on this program, it feels like these two superpowers are now on an inevitable collision course, and the only thing we can control right now is the pace when it happens. Do you think we can change course?
Well, I mean, the course is speaking loudly and carrying a small stick. The course here is that the Chinese understand the power of the United States. They want to diminish it in public, but at the same time, they have made no military moves whatsoever that would bring them into conflict with the United States. They know there are limits to what the U.S. can tolerate. They also don't underestimate U.S. naval power. The newspapers, the media may underestimate it. Certainly the U.S. Navy wants to emphasize how weak they are so they get more budget. But the fact is, nothing has happened. And nothing has happened because the Chinese don't want it to happen.
This is important, George. You're basically implying here that the chance of a military altercation between the U.S. and China is a lot less than many people seem to think, which raises a question. What is the battlefield? Is it cyber? Is it trade? Is it something else that we haven't necessarily thought about?
China is the largest exporter in the world. The United States is the largest importer in the world. The Chinese have managed through clumsy diplomacy to really irritate its largest customer. China has got to get that market back opened. It doesn't have domestic demand enough to maintain itself, and other countries can't substitute for that American market. So this is about the fact that China does not want to open its markets. The United States is not going to allow the status quo ante to exist, and therefore the Chinese have to find some way to accommodate their economy to the demands of the United States. War is not among them.
You know, I got to say, the deficit in trade between the U.S. and China has only widened during the pandemic. What makes you think that that the Chinese are actually at risk of losing some of their dominance over global trade?
Well, I don't know what the dominance is of the global trade. Do we have a country with a $14 trillion GDP and 1.5 billion people facing a country with $20 trillion and a population of only 300 trillion? It's hard to see that. But we have to also remember something else. There's a massive alliance arrayed against China. Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, the Philippines, Indonesia, Singapore, Australia, now India. China has not a single military ally in the region, not one. The only ally it has in the whole world that signed the paper is Pakistan. So China is an isolated country, a very vast country that's isolated. But the United States has an alliance structure stretching all the way from the Aleutians to the Malacca Straits. So from a strategic standpoint, the United States has a much better position than the Chinese do.
And Dr. Friedman, this is so much what I see with Kishore Mahbubani of Singapore, where Ambassador Mahbubani talks about is China won, and he says, no, they haven't. Let's get discreet here, and let's look at north of the Philippines to Taiwan, the 100 or so miles of the Luzon Strait. Do we show the flag in the Luzon Strait? Do the French run their military hardware through the Luzon Strait? How do we make clear to China that the Luzon Strait is untouchable?
The Chinese have no illusions about that. The Chinese understand, firstly, that if they did invade Taiwan, the entire alliance structure, the Japanese, the South Koreans, they would turn against them even harder than they have. They understand that hostile military action will panic the region, make the coalition even stronger, and that they've got some, the Japanese have significant naval power. So they understand that taking Taiwan, for example, first, doesn't solve their strategic problem. There are choke points behind Taiwan that the U.S. can close if they succeed. And secondly, if they do undertake this, same reason the Soviets really didn't want to do anything in NATO, because they would solidify NATO. Even the French would join in. So nobody wants the Chinese to rampage across the Pacific. They don't have the ability to do so since they have no allies. They're all alone in the system. But they have to create an atmosphere in which people dread China because it helps their negotiating position, they think. I think it doesn't, but that's for them to decide. But the execution of an amphibious invasion is the hardest thing in military affairs. It was extremely hard for the United States during World War II. It is very difficult. And to remember one thing about any invasion, you can lose. And China internally, where Xi has many questions being asked about his capability in running the country, inside the country, he can't afford to lose.
Doctor, a really important conversation, and as always, enjoy catching up with you. George Friedman there, Geopolitical Futures founder and chairman. Number of the moment, we need to turn back to it, 177.42. That's your intraday high at a 10-year yield. Right now, yields up by 6 basis points to 177, Tom. On a 30-year, we're at 245 and up 4 basis points on the day.
To Global Wall Street watching, and really to those that are less Global Wall Street, the key word today, John, is correlation. It's all locked in together, and with futures that are saying to me they want to go higher, even though right now red and green on the screen.
Payrolls Friday. Lisa, the numbers are huge. 650,000 is the median estimate. 1.1 million. Ian Shepherdson over at Pantheon. 1 million. Michelle Meyer over at Bank of America. I think Michael Gapin of Barclays in and around 950. These are big numbers people are looking for this coming Friday.
And it raises a question of whether we're going to see further disruption in the Treasury market as people get accustomed to a booming economy at the same time as President Biden plans to talk about a $3 trillion stimulus. You put these things together, how much disruption do you get in markets that have gotten used to incredible policy support and very low yields?
And what's so important here, John, is we can introduce for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, on to Jobs Day Friday. I'll be here, folks. Good Friday. Pharaoh will be off, I should point out. Looking forward to that.
Is that why we're
John,
doing that?
it's the pendulum of boom.
The pendulum
of boom.
When Lisa starts talking about the pendulum of boom, I think we should all worry.
Then go straight to triple leverage cash right away. I'm not getting there yet.
Not yet. The outlook's better on the vaccine front too. 90% of US adults set to be eligible for a vaccine by the middle of next month, according to the president. We'll have that conversation next with Dr. Amish Adalja, Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security Scholar. From New York City, this is Bloomberg.
With the First Word News, I'm Ritika Gupta. President Biden is planning to take on the nation's challenge of inequality with a mass expansion of government spending. The president also plans a revamp of the tax code. He'll start to outline his plans tomorrow in a speech in Pittsburgh. The president's remarks will lay out the infrastructure part of a $3 trillion spending package. Social spending programs will be unveiled next month. The immediate crisis of the Suez Canal blockage has ended, but the battle over damages is just beginning. It's estimated that the cost of the canal's closure was $10 billion a day. Cargoes were delayed for days, if not months, and that's likely to lead to a flood of claims by everyone affected, from the shipping lines to manufacturers and oil producers. BioNTech has now raised the number of coronavirus vaccine doses it plans to make this year by 25%. The new target, 2.5 billion doses. BioNTech and Pfizer collaborated to develop the vaccine. BioNTech estimates that in the fourth quarter it took in $405 million in revenue versus $33 million a year earlier. And a battle in the Supreme Court tomorrow could determine whether the NCAA's grip over college athletics is loosened. The organization will ask justices to overturn a ruling that would let member schools offer student athletes more in the way of education-related compensation. The NCAA is trying to shield its rules from tough antitrust scrutiny. The U.S. is abandoning its 4-year-long antitrust.
Okay, guys, let's play stop on profit, and let's place stop at profit at 0.94383. Okay, 0.94383. 18. Sorry, we need to get more precise. 0.94. We will place a stop on profit at 0.94. 198. That's a nice level. That will probably hold for a while and keep us going on. If the price will change direction, we have a chance that it will not reach this level. Okay. If you follow this trade, if you already entered this trade, please place stop on profit so you will not lose your investment money, and if it changes its direction, you will end up in profit. Okay, stay safe. I'll speak to you later.
minority myth wasn't something that was fabricated by the Asian Americans. It was created as a tool to alienate the Black and the Asian American communities, and it was incredibly successful.
We know that racism didn't begin yesterday. We know it's probably not going to end tomorrow, but it is our job to make sure that there's progress and we keep people safe, give people dignity.
I spent a lot of time last year to just listen, to understand, to reflect, and understand what I could do as a leader of this organization.
For many years, we've been very shareholder focused, and now there really is much more of a community requirement.
The economic downturn in the U.S., we're seeing unemployment and income losses affecting women more than men.
2/3 of the jobs lost in South Africa were women's jobs. So I think we're in a moment of crisis.
Clearly, our societies are reproducing, not producing inequality.
We need better public policy, and we need companies to step up.
Bloomberg has enhanced search on the terminal to deliver what you need when you need it. Now, you can simply type phrases in everyday English in the command line. Compare financials. Find people. Analyze markets. You can enter phrases or ask questions. What do you want to know today? Ask a question or visit SearchGo to find answers now.
Trading revenues coming in better than expected. Everything cash, $1.4 trillion of cash. One of the most notable aspects of this report that was stellar.
Mercedes-Benz is on a path towards CO2 neutral mobility. So we have flicked the switch there, and really we're going to step by step electrify everything. And what does that mean? Combustion engines get electrified.
Okay, guys, position closed at 0.94198. You already received confirmation from your broker, and you know, it all depends how much you invested. If you trade in on margin, in our case, we received £150 in profit. In your case, it's all about how much broker pays you per pip. Okay, let me show you where we close trade for newbies, for people who just decided to follow or trade. And let's look for other chances and opportunity where we can invest. We still hold several positions on, as you can see from our blue line, our ticker on Japanese yen, on euro. So we're still into several trades. Okay, stay safe.
We mentioned earlier, Bitcoin 59,000 right now. This is a joy, and it is a joy, John Farrow, after seeing the success of the United Kingdom in limiting deaths from this pandemic. No one like the United Kingdom has done this. America, better statistics, no question about that. Others, grim. John, what's your take on why the United Kingdom has been so successful?
The strategy was different. They prioritized one shot over getting everyone two within the time of maybe a month, Tom. They prioritized one shot, and right now the numbers are pretty staggering. 34 million doses given, enough to cover the population of about 25.5%. Get into second doses. That's where the push really begins in the last couple of weeks.
So the second dose is the focus in America. Amish Adalja with us with Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security, senior scholar, and of course his work really across all of the media in sending the message on this pandemic. Dr. Adalja, please explain to me how science-based pros like you, and frankly like Bill Nye, the science guy, how are you going to get the message of the efficacy and safety of this vaccine out to good Americans who just are scared and uncertain? How do you do that?
It's very challenging because the data speaks for itself. If you look at the clinical trial data, it's really incredible. We really don't see vaccines with this type of efficacy every day. But I do think what will happen is as more and more people get vaccinated, as people see the benefits of the vaccine, their friends, their family members getting vaccinated, nothing bad happening to them, but only good things happening, meaning they get their life back. That they get different privileges as people start to say vaccinated people can do this safely. All of that.